I'm Nick Hancock and welcome back to Have I Got Sport For You? Very similar to the TV show Have I Got News For You, but without the bits in Latin. With me are Paul Merton, Andy Hamilton, Gail Ems and Mark Steele. If anyone's just joining us, the scores are as they were before the news. Right, let's start the second half with another of the biggest sporting events of the summer. Paul and Mark, have a little listen to this.
Alonso for the boring European champions. Iniesta squeezes the ball through to Fabregas into the penalty area. Great run by Fabregas. Oh, what a goal! What a goal!
For the first time in international football, one country has won 3 major tournaments in succession.
What on earth could that be, do you think?
I think that's the golf.
Yes, the questions in the answer that he's just given us, really, isn't it?
It is Euro 2012. Now, the big talking point before the Euros was the exclusion of Rio Ferdinand in favour of John Terry. This show is being recorded before John Terry's trial for racially abusing Anton Ferdinand. We don't know the verdict, and to speculate about a player's guilt before his trial is morally wrong, not to mention illegal. But because we're not going out until after the verdict, we can say anything we like. So, quick-fire answers, guilty or not guilty?
Disgusting breach of centuries of tradition of English law.
It's like a kangaroo court version of jukebox jury.
Yeah. He is innocent until Chelsea buy a replacement, as well. Surely.
Let's talk about the TV coverage. It's interesting that ITV got to Poland while Lineker and Hansen were stuck in Salford. Obviously something to do with budgets.
I like the commentator who must have been praying this was happen when Germany went ahead against Greece and then Greece equalised, and he said, "They've cancelled out the debt." But you must have been going, "Please score, please, deadline."
Paul, did you watch much of it?
No, I didn't. But you see what? Well, yes, I did. I mean, I can, whichever's helpful for the programme, really.
Roy Keane was brilliant, though, wasn't he? Because he was so unpleasant.
Yeah.
And when Ireland lost, and all the Irish fans were singing and dancing and stuff like the Irish fans would, and having a brilliant time. And then all the panellists were saying, "Well, at least the Irish fans know how to have a brilliant time." Well, it's ridiculous. What are they so happy about? We've lost. We don't just go there for a sing-along. We should just be absolutely terrible. They should sack the lot of them. And he just ghastly, wasn't he, about all the fans?
Yeah. I have sort of Irish relatives who live in Cork, and my cousin, I mean, because Roy Keane's from Cork, and such is the sort of like the dedication that they have towards him. You know, he'll start supporting Sunderland if Roy Keane's managing Sunderland.
Yeah.
You know. And when it was the World Cup where Roy Keane was sort of, pulled himself out of the squad.
Japan,
yeah. My cousin organised a march through Cork to have him reinstated. About 700 people marched to have him put back into the squad. Extraordinary.
What was that furniture that they were sitting on? It was like something out of some dodgy conservatory.
Yeah, it was.
And these massive cushions, they all looked really uncomfortable and just sat there. It just didn't look right.
I think it was locally sourced.
Yeah, it must have been.
I think they should have some new faces. I read in the paper today that apparently Sky are offering Peter Crouch a chat show. Did you see that? Did you see that? Called Crouch on the Couch. Fantastic.
Well, it's one of those programmes where somebody's thought of a title first. I heard of a pilot 2 or 3 years ago which didn't get off the ground, but the idea was that Frankie Dettori would travel around the country interviewing people on horseback. I mean, and the pilot title was "What's the Story, Frankie Dettori?"
But that's a brilliant idea for a show.
Let's just hear Gary Lineker in full flow. He was really playing at the very top of his game, I think, at this particular tournament. Here's just a few of the highlights.
For the Greeks, their future in the Euro may not be certain, but they're still in the Euros. Spain won the group. They brought Navas on, and ultimately it was the guy who scored the goal as well. It was Navas in doubt. Sorry.
That was a bad one, but the second one, jeez.
The thing is, when Olaf scores 2 against you, you think you're having a laugh, don't you? I mean, gee. I think it's always worth reminding ourselves of how good that penalty was. Mr. Pirlo. It was peerless, really, wasn't it? One of the co-hosts is out. I sense the scenes in the Gdansk fan park. A fairly miserable, must be murder in Gdansk floor.
Oh my God.
It's amazing how easily a giant reputation can be crushed by the wrong choice of words, isn't it, really?
I think he should trade in at least 12 of his England goals to not ever have that played.
That's some sort of fine, yeah.
Yes, I sort of missed it, but apparently it was quite a good tournament.
It's quite good. They did that rather strange thing where they were very, very negative about the Spanish at the beginning, weren't they? Spain were boring until the final, when suddenly Spain were absolutely brilliant, weren't they?
They were. They just sort of, they'd pass it to each other, and there's always someone there, and they could do
That's
all
what
the things that
each
you
other
could...
means, isn't
Yeah,
it?
well, not if... Well, what, from England?
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Passing to the other side. But there was they beat Ireland 4-0, which wasn't quite as impressive as beating Italy 4-0. But it was tremendous. There was a point during that game where I thought Ray Winston's head might spin, and he might ask you to have a bet on the next minute that the Irish touched the ball. It was.
Well, there is, of course, now a fact that Spain have won more successive tournaments than we managed successive passes during the tournament itself, which is pretty impressive.
But it is the story, though, isn't it? I don't know if you're going to talk about the England team, but it is the thing of... I remember the 1966 World Cup. I was about 9 years old, and it was actually an extremely anxious event. The whole tournament was extremely anxious, and the whole country... It was only 20 years after the Second World War had finished, and so then to play Germany in the final, people were just sort of like really anxious in case they lost. It was not in any way enjoyable.
No.
And so I don't really follow the tournaments that closely because I know what the story is going to be. This year, England, well, you haven't got a hope. We haven't got a hope. Then we top of the group. It's like we could win this. And it's gone from that to sort of we haven't got a hope. And then we'll lose on penalties. So it's the sequel. It's the same story, isn't it?
The twist this time
what's the twist?
The twist was that in the weeks leading up to the tournament, all the commentators and the press were all saying, well, the expectations are really, really low this time. And so as a result of that, that could really help England. and it could mean that England really have a chance. And because expectations are so low, we're bound to win!
That's absolutely right, absolutely right. You mentioned about England in the 96 World Cup and all about the war and all that stereotypical stuff about the nations. But I found there was a great quote from Klinsmann. I don't think it was at this tournament, but even he couldn't help himself talking about the Germans. Have a little listen to this.
We had discussions with the federation and also with the team to say, what style of football do we stand for? What is Germany? It's a proactive nation, it's an innovative nation, it's a nation that likes to attack, unfortunately, twice in the wrong way over the last century.
At least he can chuckle about it.
I suppose the Nazis were quite proactive, weren't they?
Proactive's a great word. What about you, Andy? The false number 9 was a new concept that turned up in this tournament. Did you understand anything at all about that?
Actually, I'm not sure that is a new concept.
Right.
I think...
Well, Stoke have done it for years, to be fair.
Yes. I think I'm going to come across as a real football nerd now, but wasn't Hichikuti a false number 9 in...
The Hungarian?
The Hungarian.
Yeah. All right. I'm among football nerds.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love Spain. I'll just say I love Spain because they proved once and for all to my games master, wherever you are, Mr. Wilson, that sometimes you should pick the small, skillful player and not the big bloke who can run faster. Because they are, Xavi and Iniesta have been playing together since they were 11, which is an amazing thing, and they're tiny. Even by my standards, they are tiny.
I love the fact that Spain actually made Torres feel exactly like he does in the Premier League, just left him on the bench all the time.
Yeah.
I think if a Spain team can do that, whether we would have left if we had Torres in the England team, whether we would have done that.
Yeah, it is a bit classy, isn't it?
It's kind of like, no, you sit down there, love. You've been there for most of the season. You sit there.
Right, penalties. We need to have a little chat about penalties because obviously, it's so inevitable in the end, isn't it? Is there anything we can do to overcome this jinx, Mark?
Well, they've at least started practicing now, haven't they?
Yeah.
for years they used to say, well, what's the point in practising? Because you can't replicate what it's going to be like. But then there's no point in practising anything then, is there?
What's the point of having people who can play football?
Exactly, yeah. Because it'll be different once you're out. And so we're just going to pick 11 random people from the National Lottery.
Well, they're certainly taking it a lot more seriously, because Joe Hart said that he prepared for the game against Italy by watching every Italian penalty for the last 10 years, right? And Buffon, the Italian goalkeeper, was asked how he prepared, and he said, I sat in my hotel room watching porn. I don't know whether we learn anything from that. Anyway, penalties. We're on the radio. We've got to be able to use a few sound effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a few England penalty misses. And if you'd like to, when they've finished playing, you can buzz in and see if you can guess who it is that's missing this particular penalty. Here's the first one.
To keep England going in the European Championship. Here he comes. Oh, and it's been saved by Kopka. Kopka dives to his right.
Anybody? Yeah.
Southgate, 96.
Well, you should know that, shouldn't you? You've been a Palace fan. Well done. You get a point for that. Next one.
About to head it right-footed. Here he comes. Shoots and it's saved. Ricardo just diving low to his left. Pushed it behind. It really was too close to the goalkeeper.
That's against Portugal, isn't
Well
it,
done,
Ricardo?
Yeah.
Beckham missed against. No, it was
Not
saved.
I think it's
Anybody?
Carragher.
Carragher? No, it's not Carragher.
Gerrard.
No.
Oh,
Pierce?
hang on. Sinclair.
I'll give you a clue.
Is it the Queen? She brought on.
It's quite a big clue. His first name's Darius. Oh,
Vassal.
Oh, yeah, Vassal. Yeah. And a final one. You've got to listen to this commentary. It's rather wonderful, I think.
34 caps. He's not scored. You know him better than anybody probably. Do you back him to score quickly? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh, he hasn't. No. Argentina go through, and England go out.
Right, Andy?
I tried to stop that so we wouldn't have to listen to it again. That was David Batty.
It was David
and
Batty.
that was Brian Moore.
I love Brian Moore's
Tempting
commentary.
Fate by...
I love the fact that, you're all watching it. It's a pretty obvious moment to be watching the game, and he goes, oh, no, he's missed it. That's going to add to your viewing experience in any way.
Yeah.
That's against Argentina, wasn't it?
It was against Argentina. Obviously, ITV coverage. Anybody...
Was he a chairman or a supporter? Was it Gillingham Town, Brian Moore? And their fan magazine was called Brian Moore's Got a Head Like the London Planetarium.
The London Planetarium looks uncannily like Brian Moore's head, but yeah, I'll give you the point if there was one.
I knew that would come in handy, that bit of information one day.
I'm Nick Hancock, and welcome back to Have I Got Sport for You? Very similar to the TV show Have I Got News for You, but without the bits in Latin. With me are Paul Merton, Andy Hamilton, Gail Ems and Mark Steele. If anyone's just joining us, the scores are as they were before the news. Right, let's start the second half with another of the biggest sporting events of the summer. Paul and Mark, have a little listen to this.
Alonso.
For the boring European champions. Iniesta squeezing the ball through to Fabregas into the penalty area. Great run by Fabregas. Oh, what a goal! What a goal!
For the first time in international football, one country has won 3 major tournaments in succession.
What on earth could that be, do you think?
I think that's the golf.
Yes, the questions in the answer that he's just given us, really, isn't it?
It is Euro 2012. Now, the big talking point before the Euros was the exclusion of Rio Ferdinand in favour of John Terry. This show is being recorded before John Terry's trial for racially abusing Anton Ferdinand. We don't know the verdict, and to speculate about a player's guilt before his trial is morally wrong, not to mention illegal. But because we're not going out until after the verdict, we can say anything we like. So, quickfire answers, guilty or not guilty?
Disgusting breach of centuries of tradition of English law.
It's like a kangaroo court version of jukebox jury.
Yeah. He is innocent until Chelsea buy a replacement, as right. Surely.
Let's talk about the TV coverage. It's interesting that ITV got to Poland while Lineker and Hansen were stuck in Salford. Obviously something to do with budgets.
I like the commentator who must have been praying this was happen when Germany went ahead against Greece and then Greece equalised, and he said, they've cancelled out the debt. But you must have been going, please score, please, deadline.
Paul, did you watch much of it?
No, I didn't. But you see what? Well, yes, I did. I mean, I can whichever's helpful for the programme. Really.
Talking
Roy Keane was brilliant though, wasn't he? Because he was so